If there's any blind spot I have as a film critic, it's kung fu movies. I watched Drunken Master and Rush Hour when I was 6 years old, so I barely remember them, and the only other ones I've seen are Shang-Chi, Karate Kid, and whatever the hell this was. It's actually called Chilean soccer and it fucking slaps. But I saw a couple of movie clips online and kung fu is a generally cool genre. It's basically people fighting each other but really cool in backflips. Not the best way I could have described it, it's really cool. So I thought I would check out the classics made by Jackie Chan. And no, I don't mean his American movies, I'm not talking about Kung Fu Panda or Karate Kid. I mean the real classics, the films he's known for in Hong Kong. The films you MCU casuals, American audiences wouldn't know about. I'm also watching Rush Hour. I looked up his best and most iconic movies, most of which I'll be watching for the first time. It'll be in random order, starting with police stories about honest cop named Inspector Kwok protecting a informer from a vicious mob boss who wants to kill her. This is my first Jackie Chan movie in 10 years, and it was amazing. Probably one of the best action movies I've seen, and also some of the best stunts I've seen that progressively get better as it goes along. It starts with a pretty standard shootout between the cops and these criminals. The action is fast, people are shot off buildings, there's a scene where a bunch of cars destroy this village, including a building with people on it. Already impressive, but the first thing that got my attention was when Jackie Chan runs after a bus, hooks an umbrella in a window, and hangs out the end. He then continues to hang off the side of the bus as it turns, and this is right after I learned from the credits that Jackie Chan directed this film. It's a great mix of comedy and action, and I was completely impressed, having no idea what was coming. One thing I really like about this guy is how he mixes the comedy in his films. I already knew going in that he's more comedic than Bruce Lee, but the creativity in most of these fight scenes to be funny makes for a very entertaining movie. Like this whole scene where he picks up multiple phone calls at once and how naturally unfolds to the point where the entire office is tangled is very thought out and generally amusing. Or that scene where he's having a fake fight with his friend who passes out and he has to pretend to keep fighting him while the woman is trying to kill him. I don't remember the last time I loved a movie specifically for its creativity, but that's constantly the case here. That and of course the action. While the shootout at the start is just okay, the fight scene against the mob in the parking lot immediately outshined that. This scene is what made me realize what this movie is about and that I needed to make a video about this guy. It literally starts with him being hit by a car, dodging another car that rams into a third car, then he throws a dude through a glass window, kicks another guy through a window, a few more clean dodges, and then he jump kicks this guy into a windshield. And that's just the first 20 minutes of this action set piece. I haven't gotten this much adrenaline from an action movie since John Wick 4. It's clean, fast, creative, and 100% practical. No CGI, no green screen, no pauses in between the punches, just breaking glass and smashing cars with minimal cuts or shaky cam. Hell yeah, that is what I'm talking about. This isn't even the best action scene in the movie. Even the middle section, which is lighter on the action, is entertaining. I was actually invested in the plot unfolding and all the gags in between. Jackie Chan's charisma is unmatched all the way through. Just the way he presents himself doing the stunts is very entertaining, like that scene I talked about where he's hanging off the bus. His expressions while doing that are very intentionally comedic and it just adds more to those stunts. Like imagine doing a life-threatening stunt but at the same time trying to be funny. That just makes it more impressive. There's even some impressive stunts outside of the action, like May's actor being pulled off a motorcycle. The relationship between May and Kwok is also charming. I was surprisingly invested in their relationship. Even the scene in court, which I thought would be a drag, was fun to watch because of how exaggerated it is. There's a cliche scene where the police department thinks he's crazy and has to go rogue, but it's done well as it leads to a surprisingly tense and well-acted standoff where he holds the superintendent captive, but then it's revealed right after that Superintendent Lee is actually on his side and wishes him luck. Maybe it's because it's under 90 minutes long, but besides the couple of parts in the first act, not one scene dragged. And then of course you get to the finale in the mall. The cinematography is top-notch, the soundtrack is exciting, and it's full of people being thrown through glass, sliding down escalators, using clothes racks to fight people, almost ramming Jackie Chan with a motorcycle, actually ramming someone with a motorcycle through glass, throwing more people into more glass. This is some of the most raw and exciting action I see in my life. Now I want every action movie to have people being thrown through glass. It's just so satisfying. Add in a theme song that slaps hard, and this was way better than I expected it to be. Probably my favorite action movie of all time, 10 out of 10. Let's see if any of his other films will live up or even exceed this one. Unfortunately, a step down from the first, but still a decent time. Police Story 2 is about Inspector Kwok having to stop a terrorist group while the mob boss from the first film comes out of jail with a vendetta against them. That means there's two entirely different criminal groups to follow in this one, but not only is the mystery less interesting to watch unfold, but it's more convoluted. These plot lines never come together at any point. In fact, the one with the old mob boss coming back stops halfway through, which makes you question what the point was. The film could have worked with just a terrorist group. It feels a lot longer while only having it added 10 minutes to the runtime. There's one sequence that was badly lit to an annoying degree. Maybe it was just a TV I was watching it on, but it was so dark. I mean, it's not like the plot was the best part of the first movie either, it's just not as comedic. This film takes itself pretty seriously for the most part, and surprisingly takes out a lot of the charm. The Buster Keaton aspects of Jackie Chan is just not present. Not saying there aren't any crazy or dangerous stunts in this, just the comedic elements aren't as present as they should be. There's no scene where he's comedically trying to dodge cars while hanging off an umbrella or getting his telephone lines tangled. And when this film is trying to be funny, it surprisingly falls flat as trying to be funny in a different way from the first that I can't really explain. With that all said though, the action is still fantastic. That whole playground fight where it's a 20v1 and it takes advantage of all the things you find in a playground is pretty awesome and probably my favorite part of the movie. Even small things like when he's casually hit by the bus is pretty cool to watch. And even though I complained about being less comedic than the first, it does provide more personal stakes as the terrorists kidnap Meg. I started to get invested again in the second act of this film after they ditched the whole subplot with the old mob boss. Not only is the story now focused, but the whole sequence where he's tied to a bomb and forced to steal from his own police force is suspenseful. The entire set piece at the fireworks factory is cool to watch, especially knowing that they definitely did all this shit for real. The stunt where he slides down that plastic tube that explodes and then he crawls out of it while almost catching on fire. How is this guy even still alive? And somewhat abruptly, it's not really clear if he and May got back together at the end when that was a huge plot point, but still a decent time. 7 out of 10. Miracles is about a normal guy who through shenanigans accidentally becomes a mob boss of a big family. He learns how to be a crime boss while some enemy groups try to kill him, and he officiates a wedding of this daughter of this flower saleswoman that it's honestly kind of confusing. Probably the messiest and most convoluted plot so far. I was invested for the first hour, but then meanders with him officiating this wedding, which out of all the things you could do with Jackie Chan being mob boss is surprisingly dull and boring. It doesn't help that it's over 2 hours long and there's only 3 action scenes, with the first one easily being the weakest of the 3. It's frustrating because the action is generally some of the best I've seen. Maybe even a step up from Police Story. From the cinematography to the stunt work, this movie's action is top notch even for Jackie Chan standards. The cinematography and set pieces are impressive. It really does transport you to this time period. You can feel the budget on screen. Apparently Jackie Chan has stated that this is a personal favorite movie among his filmography. This film pays homage to the Hollywood 1930s crime period films he grew up watching and took heavy inspiration from. If it sounds interesting, I'd actually recommend giving it a chance, as there are people who enjoy this film, and again, those 2 action scenes are some of the best I've seen so far. It was just too long and not nearly as interesting as it should have been. 6 out of 10. Jackie Chan is a police officer who is trying to take down a band of violent and dangerous pirates. The story is so unforgettable, and while it's full of comedic energy, a lot of this film's humor is too cheesy and dumb for my liking. Maybe it's because this is the first Jackie Chan film where I was forced to watch a dub version on Tubi, but the comedy was too exaggerated. There were some fun characters in this, like the fat guy he's friends with. The chemistry is charming and fun to watch, but once again, the standout is the action. No shit, right? It's not as reliant as stunts as his previous films, but when there is one, like him climbing up the pole or jumping out the building, it's really cool to watch, especially knowing that he broke his neck jumping off that building. Like, what the fuck? The cinematography is once again very smooth, especially at the end where they fight the head pirate. But this film peaks in the middle with a chase scene with bicycles, and I know what you're thinking, a chase scene with bicycles? How the hell is that the best? It even has a great comedic moment where he sits on the bike and realizes the padding is off. If you need any scene showing Jackie Chan's creativity, just watch this scene. Honestly, I wish there were more sword fights too. That 1 minute where they're going at each other with swords was mesmerizing. Some flaws, but what this film does well, it does really well. 7.5 out of 10. Alright, but I know why you clicked on this video. There's one buddy cop movie that many consider a classic. To infiltrate a drug cartel, Police Inspector Kwok goes undercover in a Chinese prison. There he earns the trust of an important cartel member by breaking him out of prison. With the help of another undercover agent played by Michelle Yeoh, they travel to Hong Kong and are both accepted by the gang's leader. But their operation is jeopardized when Kaku's girlfriend accidentally reveals his true identity. Yeah, so the plot summary on Google basically gives away the entire plot of the movie, but the story isn't the draw here. It's the stunts and seeing Michelle Yeoh and Jackie Chan share the screen. Both are the highest grossing Asian actors at the time, and their buddy cop chemistry is a lot of fun. The plot is also easier to follow and more entertaining than Police Story 2, as Kwok is going undercover and trying to win the trust of this mob boss, which naturally leads to some comedic situations. The scene where he introduces his fake family without knowing any of their names is a highlight. The comedy still feels somewhat different from the first, but the situational humor is prevalent. With that said, this is nothing like the first 2 movies. It's completely 90s and Americanized. It replaces the theme song with a new upbeat soundtrack that sounds like this. Kinda sucks, I really like the police story theme, but it doesn't end there. Even the action is more Americanized, having more cuts compared to the wide shots and longer takes of the first. Admittedly, the kung fu is a step down. I prefer how the action is directed in the first two, but the stunts are turned up to 100. Jackie Chan hanging off a helicopter in the air like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 6 was crazy to watch. Michelle Yeoh jumping on a motorcycle onto a movie train was crazy. Michelle Yeoh hanging off a moving truck was crazy. Basically, the entire third act is completely electrifying and constantly puts you on the edge of your seat. A blast to watch with an edge of your seat climax. 8 out of 10. Alright, but I know why you clicked on this video. Here's the big one, the one you've been waiting for. Wong Fei-hung, the mischievous son of a martial arts master, constantly fools around instead of seriously training for kung fu. After his pranks injure the son of a local powerful figure, his desperate father turns to his eccentric, sadistic uncle Beggar So, who is infamous for crippling students, to discipline the boy by teaching him unconventional drunken kung fu style that improves with intoxication. It's just as corny and over the top as Project A, but the humor works and comes across as charming in the same way as Police Story 1. This is one of Jackie Chan's earliest films and naturally has the fastest and most agile fight cinematography so far. Every punch, every dodge, every movement is concise and exactly what you expect from a young Jackie Chan. Also really love the chemistry between Fei Hung and the old man. Really do feel their relationship grow, and Sin Tin Wan is very charismatic as his mentor. It may be a little too long, but it was very fun all the way through. 7.5 out of 10. Alright, now let's talk about the big one, the movie you know him from, the buddy cop movie to end all buddy cop movies. Is the rage bait working? Huh? Is it working? Huh? You little shit. You angry? You angry yet? What the Snake in the Eagle Shadow is about Shang Fu, an orphan adopted by a kung fu school where he's abused by the masters and forced to work as a janitor. He befriends an old beggar who is secretly a kung fu master and the last person alive who knows the snake style of kung fu. He's on the run from the Eagle Claw clan who is trying to wipe out every person who knows the snake style. Beggar So teaches Shang Fu the snake style of kung fu so he can stand up to his bullies and fight off the Eagle clan. Snake in the Eagle Shadow is Jackie Chan's major breakthrough after years of being child actor and stuntman. It's mostly a simple story about underdog learning kung fu to fight his bullies, but the story is pretty engaging. You feel bad for this guy and end up hating the masters bullying him. Also does the training scenes really well and naturally. One of the standout scenes is when Beggar So challenges Shane to take the bull from him. It sounds simple, but it's generally one of the most creative fight scenes of the film. The whole scene where he moves the bull and dodges every reach was very satisfying to watch. Obviously, films like Kung Fu Panda have already done this, but what makes this especially great is that it not only grows their relationship more, but it's the scene that comes right after it. He wakes up and finds that Beggar So drew footsteps on the ground and he practices the moves he used yesterday, and he does it all day to the point that the chalk dries up and he could do it by memory. While some kung fu or action movies in general rush over the training, this film makes his skills feel naturally earned while also staying entertaining. It's also a lot of fun, just a complete vibe of a film. The over-top sound effects whenever people move their arms, the exaggerated slapsticks, the flute music. I was in a mood for a kung fu film and this delivered. The corny acting sometimes made me laugh in a good way.
Pour water on me, would you?
The relationship between Beggar So and Chain is very charming. Beggar So is also a Drunken Master where he seems to be the same character, and apparently Sin Ten One is an action movie legend in his own right. Seeing this guy who's 68 years old doing front flips and all these crazy moves while I can't get off my couch to get a cup of the Tonight Dose starring Jimmy Fallon in the fridge is crazy. The score is also surprisingly moving at times and enhances the emotional moments.
No need.
It's closely Jackie Chan's earliest breakout role and remains one of his best. It also may have one of the funniest death scenes in any film. I haven't seen this film since I was 6 years old and it was a lot of fun. Every scene between Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan oozes charisma. This movie, like most buddy cop classics, lives and dies on the chemistry between the two leads, and their back and forth is constantly great. If you think about it, this film shouldn't work. A buddy cop movie starring the biggest Asian action star and a black comedian from America is an odd combo, but it works. It really works. It also helps that the script is generally really funny and has no dull moments.
Busting like the LAPD.
This won't work. I'm not 6'1".
Even fleshes out the characters a little bit, as Chris Tucker's character has a father who died in a shooting, and uses that information as a main motivation for Jackie Chan's character to not give up. The martial arts is great. Jackie Chan is at his best with action comedies, and there's a lot of comedic fight scenes that are not only impressive to watch, but full creativity. There's one scene where Jackie Chan is trying to stop these big vases from shattering while fighting someone is better than 90% of action that comes out today. This is all while having another all-time stunt with Jackie Chan jumping on a curtain. The soundtrack pops, the plot is engaging enough, it's full of action, and it's only 90 minutes. I can see why this became a classic and one of Jackie Chan's most popular movies, 7.5 out of 10. Also, if you made it this far into the video and want to see more like it, consider subscribing and leaving a like. I'm happy to say that this is the best Jackie Chan movie I've seen since Police Story. It's a sequel to Drunken Master 16 years after the original, this time without Sin Ten Wan's iconic performance as Beggar So. You think this would be a recipe for something mediocre, but it's generally a great kung fu movie. So in Jackie Chan's best action, the fight choreography is smooth but fast, the set pieces are unbelievable, the stunts are Buster Keaton levels of insane. There's a scene where he falls into real burning hot coals. I haven't seen so many practical fire stunts in a while. The entire final brawl was great and surprisingly intense. There's a scene where to get drunk, he just starts drinking gasoline and then he turns into an absolute monster on this guy. Not one fight scene disappointed. There's one where he and another guy go against an army of assassins, and while not as memorable as the Kill Bill scene, it may be better than the Kill Bill scene just counting the fight choreography. The film itself has a charismatic cast and some of the strongest directing. Whenever a film doesn't have balls to walls action, life-threatening stunts, or creative comedic moments, it's an over-the-top melodrama that remains entertaining. I kinda got invested in the relationship between Fei Hung and his parents. Overall, one of Jackie Chan's funniest, energetic, and most aggressive outings, 9 out of 10. And I think that's gonna be it. I was gonna finish this video by reviewing The Shadow's Edge, basically see Jackie Chan's latest film and if he still has the sauce, but I can't find it on any streaming services and I'm not really in the mood to risk a $100,000 fine to watch it, so I'll just leave it at that. After watching 9 iconic Jackie Chan films, I don't think it's a secret at this point that was like finding a new restaurant, cheap prices, and fantastic food. He's a great mix of Buster Keaton, Bruce Lee, and Gene Kelly, while also entirely being his own thing. You can see that early on in his career he was more focused on kung fu and one-on-one fights, but over time had higher budgets, bigger set pieces, and incorporated stunt work heavily in his films. But throughout the more low-budget films like Drunken Master to dramas like Miracles and then American blockbusters like Rush Hour, one thing that was never lost was his comedic energy. You get the feeling watching his films that his main goal is to entertain, whether that be through comedic dangerous stunts, being really funny, making an over-the-top melodrama, or all at the same time. If you're watching this video and haven't seen many kung fu movies, I urge you to give this genre a chance like I did. I wasn't even a big fan before starting this video, but after discovering this guy's filmography, now I want to check out films like The Raid, IP Man, and even all the Bruce Lee films, which I could do for the next video if you guys are interested. With that said, until next time, see ya. Police Story 2 is about Inspector Kwok having to stop a terrorist group while the mob boss from the first film comes out of jail or jail?